Hey, it's Jake Gagne. Thanks for watching MotoAmerica on YouTube. Like, subscribe, comment, hit us with it.
Josh Hayes out front on his way to taking the checkered flag and another win. But this battle for second is the battle for the championship. And how about this final run of the checkered flag? Here we go. And it's going to be Josh Herrin holding off Rocco Landers. And Josh Herrin able to wrap up the Supersport National Championship for the Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York entry. It's time for the MotoAmerica AMA FIM North American Road Race Championship. Our round, Superbikes at New Jersey, right here in Millville, New Jersey, as we set the stage for Supersport race number 2. It's our 8th round of the season, and we're racing up New Jersey Motorsports Park. Hello, everyone, and welcome to the broadcast booth. I'm Greg White, standing alongside two-time AMA champ Jason Pridmore. Now, Jason, this championship, well, it's done and dusted in terms of the number 1 plate. Josh Herrin wrapped it up yesterday.
Yeah, absolutely. Fantastic year for that whole team and for Herrin himself. Obviously, he's been well documented. He's finished second a few times in that championship. But yesterday, he wasn't going to beat an I-grade. Qualified on the second row, which is unusual for us to see on that number 2 Ducati. But right off the bat, he got up to a good start, battled Tyler Scott into turn 1. Ty Scott would make a mistake here, Greg, and Herrin would have the lead. He would get run down by Rocco Landers, Josh Hayes, and Stefano Mesa. With about 7 laps to go, Hayes made the pass on both those guys in turn 1 and would go ahead and pull away by some 5 seconds and win the race, but everybody kept their eye on the battle for that championship, and it was Herrin beating Rocco across the line to finish second and take this championship.
Amazing, really, because Josh just didn't want to give it up. But, Jason, we're on the cusp of some history here. As Josh Hayes won his 85th race all-time, that puts him only 1 behind the legend, Miguel Duhamel.
Yeah, and I raced a lot with both of these guys, and it's great to see Josh still racing and still being competitive and still having the desire to do it. Don't be surprised if he does it again, although today I think it'll be a little bit more racy and chippy at the front.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be interesting. And I can tell you what, Miguel Duhamel is watching what happens with Josh Hayes. Rocco Landers trying to get another win going. Can he do it right here at NJMP? We'll see when we return.
I'm Robbie Floyd with Roger Hayden. We get to jump in during the breaks throughout here as we look at Rocco Landers getting ready to go as Mythos gear, looking on the back, on his back. Now, Raj, when we saw the stats with Josh Hayes, what do you think about that career and doing it for so long? He's 47 years old.
Yeah, I mean, it's amazing to be that competitive still at his age and also still have the drive to do it. And he took the long road here. It wasn't an easy one for him. I mean, I seen him when he started club racing, doing a lot of the work and going to the races on his own, and it was a huge accomplishment. I mean, he was kind of, to be honest with you, Robbie, was kind of against the odds for somebody, for the way he came through. And you know what he did, though? He took advantage of his opportunities. When somebody gave him an opportunity, he grabbed a hold of it. When he got his opportunity to ride on some good teams in AMA when it was then, he took the opportunity and ran with it. When he got on like the Arian Honda team, took that opportunity and ran with it. And then when he got the Superbike deal from Yamaha, really took that opportunity and was great and was a tough guy, tough rider, tough competitor in all conditions. And he's had a heck of a career, and it's not over.
No, and you see, like Rocco Landers, it was walking around stretching his legs. Rocco is 30 years younger than Josh Hayes. Rocco Landers, 17 years old. Josh, 47 years old. But that number 4, I mean, really, any question? He is the bike. He is the rider to beat here today.
Yeah, I think so. We were talking about it Friday when we was watching that first qualifier, and I told you Josh is the guy to beat.
Yeah.
And when we was watching that race yesterday, just seeing how the race was playing out, when he got in the lead going into turn 1, made that pass stick through 2, I knew he was going to get his head down and pull a gap where nobody could make those dive bomb passes into 5, and today he's going to be the guy to beat again.
When I saw it, sorry, I know we're counting down before our next break. he was turning lap times you thought that should have been done that whole time. We saw Ty Scott trying to push the envelope and went down earlier. I said, if you know what you saw yesterday, would you have pushed as hard? He said, probably not. I'd have stayed there and then turned it on at the end. There was a lot more time still to be had. We're going to see some of these guys pushing hard with this being the second day of a 2-day race.
Yeah, and Tyler Scott, I mean, just made a mistake. He did what he's supposed to do.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean, he's trying to check out. I mean, if he slows down and lets Josh get close to him, he's going to catch him once he gets in the second. He was trying to, Josh was in the back getting held up a little bit, and he was trying to make the gap like he's supposed to do, and just, had a crash, and the young kid learned from it.
You can't fault Ty Scott at all for doing what he does. There's a reason he's so fast, and that's because he does push it. And he said, I felt great until everything wasn't so great. He does have an injured hand. I saw it taped up, kind of ground it down just a little bit. But again, we're about to have a good race here. We still got one more break before Supersport race.
Yeah, these clouds right now are telling the story as we're back at New Jersey Motorsports Park trying to get race 2 underway. Weather is all over the place, but we got to get this race going. So let's get right down to the grid and Hanalopa.
Before yesterday, Josh Herrin already had 2 championship titles to his name, but yesterday he was able to add Supersport champion for 2022 to that list. Now that you've clinched the title, are you feeling kind of a sense of relief, a bit of monkey off your back?
Yeah, a little bit. Definitely not as nervous as I was yesterday, but it's still started a race. Now we've forgotten about the championship and just focus on today. I'm ready to get over with and head home for a little bit of relaxation for sure. It's kind of anticlimactic, right? You win the title. We're lucky to win it early, but it feels weird to be racing the next day. So we're just going to give it our all today and hope it's good enough. And come to Barber strong.
Well, best of luck out there, Josh. Let's get over to Jamie Howe.
For Stefano Mesa, we only see him on a part-time basis, but despite that, throughout the entire weekend, he's been right there in the top 3. You battled for that last spot on the podium yesterday. You wound up 4th. How do you take what you learned yesterday, pair it with the unknowns of today, and get on the podium for the first time this season?
Yeah, it's been full of learning this weekend. We've been going fast since the first session, so that's normally not the case with me. We have great help this weekend, so we're just going to try and go out there and do our best for this last race of the day.
Good luck out there. Greg?
All right, can't wait to see what Mesa has in store for us. And one thing we do know, Jason Pridmore, is what New Jersey Motorsports is like. So tell us about it.
Yeah, great track. Short one, Greg. Short lap times, fast lap times. It's got a really nice flow to it. The big start straightaway down into turn 1. Some challenges down there as you get to turn 3, 3B, 3C. Some bumpiness there as you go through and up over a little wheelie hill into turn 5. You're going to see some out-braking moves there. Turn 6 falls away from you on the entry. Then you get to 7, 8, 9 where you're going to spend a lot of time modulating that throttle up that hill. And obviously 11A there that you see in 12 is super important to get a good run through there to get on that front straightaway as fast as you can.
All eyes on where start finish is after turn number 12. If you're behind, can you draft and pass? That's always the question. This rider right here, Squid Hunters Josh Hayes, trying to tie Miguel Duhamel in race number 2. Are you going to witness it? We certainly hope we do.
All right, it's our last shot, Roger, as we look at. Hey, got some spiffy Oakleys out there today.
Some new sunglasses today.
I got some new ones there. Rocco Landers might be a little fly in the ointment, though. He was disappointed with his ride yesterday. I thought he did exceptional. Rocco Landers finishing 3rd behind Hayes and Herrin, but he felt like he had a little more left in the tank.
Yeah, I think so, and I think Herrin just used his experience and knew his only battle was with Rocco. He didn't care about the win. He wanted to get that title done and just made Rocco finish behind him, and I think both of them could go quicker if they needed to, and we'll see that today. And see Josh there, he's got all the pressure off of him now. He can let it fly this race, and hopefully we can see him at the front.
He's going to have that free reign to go as fast as he wants to. I think you see Rocco Landers down there, and he did that little twist of the wrist. Full gas, he likes to call it. Stoney looking over his shoulder, and he's doing what a lot of people thought he would do. It took him his 2nd year to get those wins, and I know Yamaha's not really putting much effort into that Yamaha 600 anymore. It's a bike. It's kind of a lonely bike, isn't it? It is fast enough to win these races, but my thought is even though if you're not selling that 600 anymore, you're saying Yamaha every single time if he can put it on top of the box, and that only helps that brand.
Yeah, and he gets some support from Yamaha. You see Tom Halverson there at the podium when he gets on the podium and stuff, so definitely getting a little help. And you can see the Yamaha's still a good bike. I mean, won yesterday. Josh has won a couple races on it. Rocco's on pole position. Rocco just needs to get a good start. You know, we talk about it. I joke with him every weekend about his start and getting that first lap. He needs to today get a whole shot and him control the pace, and like what Tyler Scott did yesterday, get in the lead and try to go. And I'd like to see how Tyler Scott bounces back today and, you know, see what he can do. He was riding so well yesterday, making that mistake in you know, that long right-hander. We was just trying to get that gap like he's supposed to do and just made a mistake.
A new set of gloves, again, ground down through some of those yesterday in that crash and injured his hand, father over his shoulder there. One thing, talking to riders in the paddock that may be on that 600 class bike, the power delivery, the way it does, it's hard to keep that tire under them the entire time. Where these 750s, you see the Ducati, you see the Suzuki 750, these bigger bikes are more like tractors. They can conserve that tire a little bit more. You get a little more Snappy McGee out of those 600s.
Well, because you kind of, with the more power, you can just kind of know how to carry as much corner speed, kind of point and shoot, get it on that, you know, more edge of the tires. You go out of the corner with the young, you know, with like the Supersport bikes, 600s, they're carrying a lot more corner speed.
There's several guys that can win this race. Only one will be able to do so. MotoAmerica Superbikes at New Jersey. Supersport ready to hit the track for the final time.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is sponsored by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series, and by Geico, where 15 minutes could save you 15% or more on your car or motorcycle insurance.
Wait a second, is that go-karting from Friday night? Yeah, it's true. Our crew arrived somewhere around Wednesday, gets everything set up, and so Friday night after their day was done, we let them out on the local go-kart track here, and they had a good time. I don't know why yellow flags are flying, but I even heard, Jason, that Jamie Howe was out there. There's Jamie racing. She does a lot of race car stuff, so.
Did they not squeeze you into one of those?
Yeah,
No?
they
They
did
didn't?
not. I didn't even get invited to that one. There's part of our crew who enjoyed that Friday at the go-kart track. And Jay, looking at our crew now, you can see that we have cameras on, or we have covers on our cameras. That's because there is the wet stuff in the area. We generally don't like to talk about it, but we're hoping to get this one under dry conditions. And Jay, Rocco Landers, our pole sitter, Mesa, and Ty Scott on the front row.
Then we have Josh Hayes trying to get into history books today. Josh Herrin, our champion already, and Benjamin Smith on row 2. Back to row 3, Lockoff, Power, and Don Doyle. Nisani, Soltis, and LaRoche. Then we have Liam Grant, Amaya, Zaragoza, Donde, and Sarbora are going to round out the grid. And I can tell you, Greg, it's a nervous grid today because when there's the threat of rain in the area, everyone's standing out there wondering if it's going to rain, is it not going to rain? How do you go about the race? This is when all your senses have to really be in touch here. And you can see clear visor there for Dom Doyle. There'll be some guys in smoked, kind of screened visor. I always like the clear visor in these kind of conditions only because then you could really tell the discoloration of pavement. Sometimes when it's raining, Greg, it's not going to stick, and it's going to, and your tires are still going to get hot. Say you're 2-3 laps in, and the rain starts to sprinkle. You're still going to have a lot more grip than you think you are. And but then it's, as the discoloration starts, where you start seeing that rain come down, and even sense of smell is key here too. When that rain's hitting that pavement, you're going to definitely smell it.
Yeah, that's a really good tip, Jay. Sense of smell when you're riding. Here's a look at that championship. So it's confirmed that Josh Herrin has that championship lead. Rocco Landers is sitting comfortably in second spot. Ty Scott and Benjamin Smith right there. And Josh Hayes, who's only done a handful of races this year, is sitting fifth in this championship. Of course, that's aided by 2 wins, where he gets 50 of those points of the 123 were scored with 2 wins.
I'm sitting there looking, shaking my head. You're laughing at me, but I'm thinking, what if he'd have done maybe the whole year? What if he'd have done more? So
well, that is the question, isn't it, moving forward for
everybody
Josh
needs
Hayes
to write in and get him to, you know.
Yeah.
You want to see Josh Hayes back next year.
Get a hold of the Squid Hunter folks, because obviously Squid Hunter's put together an amazing motorcycle from him. That was at Daytona.
Yeah.
And then for them to come back out the remaining part of the season, he will be at Barber Motorsports Park and get 2 more tries at this deal. I mean, if Josh Herrin has the gloves off, though, Jay, it's going to be interesting to see. Now, the good news is for this field is that they did have a dry session this morning.
Yes.
They didn't set the world on fire in lap times because it was spitting here and there, just a little bit. But I think most of the teams that I spoke with in Supersport, they had a chance to try everything they wanted to try from notes from yesterday's race.
Yeah, well, you know, again, I think it was really interesting in the interview with Josh Herrin. He almost looked more focused than he did yesterday. So it is difficult when you win a championship early and then you've got that kind of big release of like, oh, it's all finished, and then you got to come back and race the next day. But I almost feel like now he can just ride like how he wants to ride. He doesn't have to be conservative, and I think that Herrin will be a handful for all these guys. But again, I think that we're going to see 5, 6 of them up front.
19 laps scheduled in race 2 for Supersport here. When that light goes out, we're going. There we go, and it didn't look like Mesa in the middle of row 1 got a good launch.
Yeah, you looked at the same thing I did. It was a horrible start. It's going to be Ty Scott with Herrin trying to go up underneath him. Hayes trying to go up underneath all of them. So Herrin and Hayes and Rocco Landers go by Ty Scott in turn 1.
Ty Scott suffering yesterday from a ring finger injury, basically the top of his finger right behind the nail is ground down to the bone. So he's hurting under braking, but you can see it in turn number 1 as Herrin takes the lead from Hayes. A battle we have seen on and off throughout the years if you're a road race fan.
And this is going to be just that. It's going to be a battle as Herrin runs out a little bit wide. Hayes isn't going to need another look. I think Herrin will outpower him down to that turn 6, and he will. So a little bit wide for Herrin. And, you know, the other hard part about this is when you know there's rain in the area, getting to it first as Hayes looking like he wants to take another shot as he goes into 7. Josh Hayes, in case anybody doesn't know, doesn't like following. He likes to lead. So, yeah,
that is definitely good. So Mesa's back there coming off of that bad start behind Ty Scott. So here we go. Josh Herrin trying to set the pace on his Warhorse HSBK Racing Ducati New York team. That's that Panigale V2, part of the next generation of motorcycles that arrived this year in Supersport. Electronically controlled for power. Jason, here goes Josh Hayes. He's in the draft of that Ducati on that Yamaha R6, and he will get position as Herrin.
Yep, those guys got together and touched. Neither one of them wanted to give an inch, and that's what cost Herrin. Sometimes, you know, when you got a guy up alongside, you got to give a little bit every now and then. Both of them wanted to lead into turn 1. Now you watch Herrin come back through this pack.
And now we're going to see how much speed Josh Herrin has. Fiery and upset.
You can see Josh Hayes is moving over a little bit for sure. And they were both going in there, and Herrin knows he's in there a little deep. Hit some bumps there. This guy just does such a good job of keeping it on track even, because a lot of guys would have stood the bike upright and gone off. He doesn't. He's going to get back on. He's going to lose a lot of spots showing up on our screen. Where's he at, G-Dub, on our screen here?
He's going to
set through the first split. So, yeah, he's back there. Isn't he? Probably 8th or 9th.
Yeah, so 10th place.
Yeah.
10th place on the scoring pylon, which on the left part of your screen. That updates per split, so it gives you a good idea. So it's Hayes, Landers, Ty Scott in 3rd, Mesa in 4th, and Smith. Let's check in with Jamie Howe.
Well, we saw Josh Hayes make that pass on Josh Herrin down that front straightaway, and he did get the draft, but one of the problems that he had in the race yesterday was he was hitting the rev limiter coming out of the last turn, going down the front straightaway, so they did give him a little bit of a longer gear, just a little bit more room that he could actually battle with. That was something that he may not have been able to do yesterday because he just didn't have the speed, so that team is still progressing and learning each time they go out.
And Herrin rode around the outside of guys in that turn 10. So we're going to watch his lap times as they go through. But look what Hayes has done. Minute 22.9. First real flying lap there, Greg. And he's got Rocco Landers behind him, but 1.1 already cleared off. Ty Scott and Mesa battling over this 3rd place position right now with Ben Smith just off the back of them in 5th. Hayes is trying to chase history here, and he just wants to get out and go.
122.7 was what Hayes qualified with. 2nd row of the grid, and he just goes 122.9, and that is on a racetrack that I think some people are being a little conservative with.
Yeah, but you know what, Craig, honestly, this cloud cover, the bikes are going to run great. It's not hot out. It's like really perfect conditions as long as the precipitation stays away. These are really good conditions. Tires are going to stay cooler. You're going to have more grip, and this guy knows it. It's experience again. He knows it. Hannah?
Well, Tyler Scott is trying to keep Stefano Mesa at bay, and I talked to him yesterday. This is his home track, and he was really disappointed not to have the opportunity to go the full race distance yesterday with that crash. He said there was a mechanical issue with the bike that may or may not have contributed and been a factor to that crash. When I asked him about his finger, Greg, you described it in better length than he told me. He said it was just a little scratch, but
no chance, Hannah. I mean, I definitely saw that finger, and it was down to the bone. So, yeah. So Ty Scott,
that's a rough.
It is rough, and
yeah.
it's ring finger. And you know, Jason, there are a variety of ways that riders, their right hand. It's the right hand we're talking about with Ty Scott, and that's your braking hand. And there's a variety of ways that riders can, you know, basically squeeze the lever on using different fingers.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, there's so many different riders use. Some guys are 4 fingers. Some guys use their first 2. Some use their 2 middles. So when you start to look at that, if he's had to change that a little bit, that's going to be something that he's going to have to adjust to. Hannah?
yeah, Greg, Jason, it's definitely one of the fingers that he uses when he's braking, but he said it actually hurts the most when he's going over the bobbles. It feels pretty good in the corners as well. So, you know, it's just a matter of, in Sector 4, he was really strong yesterday, but his hand is really sore today. So that may take away some of the advantage that he had there yesterday.
Yeah, for sure. When you're holding onto the bar and you're feeling all the vibration through the handlebars, you're going to definitely get that. And sometimes, Greg, I think when you put your fingers out and they're outstretched, that's actually going to feel better for him than, like Hannah's talking about now, going over some of those bumps and some of these fast transitions that you're going to see as he comes out of here. I had a great chat with Robbie Peterson, and we were talking about how torque curves and higher RPMs, how that could have been a factor yesterday in the crash as well, because the 750 is going up that hill in third gear. It's at a lower RPM, Greg, and if you start to go up there, you kind of get that false sense of security that you can keep winding the power on, and it just caught Ty Scott out a little bit yesterday. You can see Herron's made his way through this battle here with Lockoff, Nassani, and Dom Doyle.
So now Josh Herron is up to P6. The check-in with him is a 1:23.9 going through traffic. So fastest personal lap for him. He also is looking up the road at Benjamin Smith and Stefano Mesa, who just went 23.4, 23.6. So now, with a clear track in front of him, we're going to see what Herron's got in the tank in terms of lap times. But for sure, he's not a happy camper.
But this is what makes it good about yesterday. You know, winning that championship yesterday, it's not going to be as impactful. Had this happened yesterday, it would have been a completely different scenario for him coming in. Like, look, he already had a huge point lead. I don't think it would have flustered him too much had this been race one and Rocco's out there and this championship would have continued. But, man, he's got the big prize that he was looking for already for this weekend in his pocket. And, you know, there's just good, hard, close racing between him and Hayes there. And, yeah, he's not going to be happy about it at all. But he'll be happy when he sees that number 1 plate.
Josh Hayes. Been racing a long time. Jason turned expert racer before he turned pro all the way back in 1995. The 47-year-old has amassed 85 race wins. If he could run this thing all the way to the checkered flag and win it, there's still 13 and a half laps to go. So there's a lot to be said here. But he would tie the famed Miguel Duhamel's all-time win record across all classes. I mean, Jason, you've been around for a lot of the race wins.
I've been around for pretty much all of them, yeah. And even Miguel, I was around for a lot of those as well. And, you know, there's people talking about how Miguel didn't have 2 races on a weekend, this and that. What you got to remember is this guy's racing at almost 50 years old.
Yeah.
And he's schooling people. Like, he is not only going out and coaching guys, he's schooling them after he coaches them. So it's one of those things where Miguel didn't race as long as Josh did. Josh has stayed competitive. The thing is it's desire. The guys he has the desire to continue to ride, to continue to push the limits. And Hayes, you know, has been one of those guys that's been always able to keep himself relatively healthy, and he rides so smooth and in controlled, and he's always got a good race plan. So you can see what he's doing right now, Greg. It's the same thing, Jamie.
Right before Daytona this year, Josh Hayes was very honest with the fact that he had to get himself physically ready for the challenge of coming back out and racing, but he said mentally he knew that he still had so much more to offer the sport, and if he could physically get himself into the position to go out there and ride to the best of his ability with these guys, that he was going to do it, and he put in the hard work. He's done it throughout the season. Even though we saw him off of the bike for a couple of months, he was still staying fit. He was still riding every chance he could to be fit on the motorcycle, and I can tell you, you were talking about, the chance of him coming back next season with the way that he's performing, with the way that the team is performing. Those conversations are ongoing. They're intensifying even as we get to the end of this season. So this is not going to be the last time that we see Josh Hayes, I think. I think he still has much more to offer even at his age and at this point in his career. He's loving the fact that he can show his kids who are now out here at the track with him what it's like to go out and chase a dream and what it's like to be able to achieve some of these things that people seem to think are impossible. He's able to show them firsthand that they're not.
And the thing is it's that crew right there on the left, and those guys believe in him, and he believes in them. And it's when you see that, age should never matter. If you've got the drive and the determination to do what you're doing, this guy, you got to remember, Greg, there was a couple dry years where after he got done racing, he didn't really race. He just would kind of be, I'd see him at the track all the time, and then he started doing some coaching and things. But I got to go race the Phillip Island Classic with him, and he's over there. He's Josh Hayes. He wants to race. He wants to win. And the thing is if you have a crew of people that will look past your age and still realize that you're willing to work hard at it and you're willing to push and get the results that he's getting, there's a lot of value in that. And I think that's what you're seeing now. We've seen Benjamin Smith gets really close to Mesa there. Benjamin Smith fighting through this pack as well. Love to see this. 24-1 last time for the 88. He's going forward, Greg. He's part of this group. Last time we saw, Benjamin Smith was off the back of Ty Scott and Mesa, and he slowly made his way forward. It looks like he's got some pace on these guys.
He does with 12 laps to go. Benjamin Smith making some big moves. That was a great save by Mesa. But the Northeast Cycle Outlet Racing rider gets real close to the Mesa 37 team.
On his boot, right?
Yeah.
He just got hung up on his boot a little bit. That's just good. Close racing again, and it just goes to show you how tight these guys get with each other. Everyone's looking for that same little bit of pavement, and it just looked like Mesa's handlebar and Benjamin's left foot there just kind of got hung up on each other.
And Benjamin Smith did a 124.1 versus Ty Scott on that Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki at a 124.3. So 0.2 of a second the difference between these riders. This is the battle for third. Hannah, what about the 37? What do you got?
Well, I'm sure that little get-together with Benjamin Smith spooked Stefano Mesa a little bit. Being a privateer effort, he really can't risk crashing the bikes this weekend. He needs to keep it clean to be able to race next weekend in the hope of earning some prize money so that he can join us for the final round at Barber. Now, he does have a new crew guy here this weekend who has experience in World Superbike, a lot of knowledge about this motorcycle, and he came into the weekend with a completely different setup than he's had all weekend, a brand new perspective, and he said he feels a lot more competitive. He was surprised with his pace yesterday. I know he wants to fight with these guys right now, but maybe he's just being a little more cautious than he would normally so he can make it to the end of the season.
You can see the brake lever guard for Stefano Mesa. Doesn't look like it's in the stock position.
We got rain.
Yeah, we got some rain. Rocco Landers pointing up at the sky, who's in second place.
Yep, and these guys are going to just keep hammering away. So it's, again, this is where you look at a guy like Josh Hayes. If it's sprinkling, like I said at the beginning of the show, if it's just sprinkling and it's not really sticking yet, then these guys can keep going. You can see these guys still got a lot of lean angle, a lot of pace. And look at Mesa now. This is right down Mesa's alley because he races every single weekend that he can. And it's a great report that we just got on him because he races all the time, Greg. And he's out there racing, trying to make contingency money to continue to race, to continue to keep going. He sees these conditions all the time. Now you'll start to see rain flags come out. And I do believe if they see that at every corner, but you get these little spurts sometimes. So
yeah, you certainly do, and that's going to be on your visor, and for some riders, it's definitely going to be unnerving.
Hayes just came across the line at a 24.7.
You can see some of the dampness on the lens of the camera. So Rocco Landers was in second spot. Now when they come across, it's Mesa in second. Benjamin Smith takes over second. Rocco is definitely drifted back, and there's Heron pushing as well. So there's Landers.
Yeah, Rocco doesn't like the rain much,
he's uncomfortable for sure.
He doesn't like it, and that's experience. Kid's 17. He'll get better at some of this stuff, but yeah, for sure. These guys are on slick tires right now, and if it starts to get really, really wet, they'll do something about that, I think. But, right now you look at Hayes, still 24/7 out front. These guys are still hammering along. Like they're still got lean angle and dragging their knee.
Benjamin Smith looked like it's completely dry out.
Yeah. So, that's just one of those things right now where it's how comfortable are you to continue to push in this stuff. Ty Scott has a look over his shoulder. And, if it starts to really bucket down, Heron still has good lean angle through turn 6 there.
Well, Benjamin Smith, Jamie, doesn't really seem to mind the conditions he's in right now, even though Mesa got around him.
No, it certainly is, throwing a bit of an unknown element into the last 9 laps of this race, but this is fitting into what his strategy was for Ben Smith coming into the race. He looked at the lap times from yesterday, and he realized that in the middle section of the race, he was the fastest bike out on the track. But his problem was that he wasn't aggressive enough in the beginning stage of the race to be able to capitalize on it. He wasn't close enough to be able to get onto the back of him and go for a podium position. But today, he was more aggressive in the opening stage. His lap times, you've already talked about it, was faster than the guys that are around him. And now he has himself up there in prime position.
Yeah, and you can also see that in front of him with Mesa. Mesa came across the line and he was trying to point to the sky. And Benjamin Smith seems like he's really focused. So, yeah, again, even though, Jason, the thing with Mesa that you're saying, right, is that he rides all the time, so he's probably been in these conditions more than other riders. But on the other hand, we heard the report that he wants to bring the thing home because he's got to take this motorcycle and go race next weekend.
It's a constant balance right now, and that's the hardest part. Is you look at somebody like Josh Hayes right now. He's just managed his pace, so he's about 3.5 seconds slower than he was fastest lap to the last couple. And this guy right here, he's not going to take any unnecessary risks. He's going to let the field know and let people know if he feels it gets dangerous. He's still accelerating up that hill. Still has, I would think, decent enough grip. Look at the lean angle he's got. So he's managing the conditions, Greg, and that's what, as a racer, you sometimes have to do. And sometimes we're going to get these little showers or little spits of rain, and you have to back off a little bit. If it gets torrential or if it gets really bad, they'll stop the race.
Yeah, and right now, like you're saying, with that lean angle, it looks okay. So to give you an idea of what these sprinkles have created for our race leader, Josh Hayes, his fastest lap of the race is a 1:22.9. He just clicked by at a 1:26.6. So we're talking about a 4-second difference. But now Hayes' lead has actually grown. You're looking at 11. It's actually grown to 12 seconds across the stripe over Mesa and Benjamin Smith because they have backed off to the 1:28 range.
Yeah, so you look at it. He's about, what is he, Greg? He's about 3.5 seconds slower than he normally would be. So is this guy. And you got to remember, I've been lucky enough to see this guy all over the world, actually. Did some world endurance stuff with him as well. And sometimes you're out there in those world endurance races and you're stuck on the track for an hour, and it can do this and it can spit on you a little bit, but it's not soaking the track.
Don't forget, Josh Hayes at one point in his career, he raced MotoGP. He had a weekend that was inclement conditions, and he put that thing well within the top 10 and scored points in the MotoGP World Championship. So Hayes kind of has a really good feeling for risk reward in these conditions.
But he's also smart. He's going to tell people if he thinks that it's unsafe, or he's going to tell people if he thinks that it's not conducive to riding right now. And right now, everybody on our screen is continuing to roll around. Everybody's just slowed their pace down a little bit, and that's what you have to do, because as quickly as you try to get a red flag, if the race ends, G-Dub, problem is it can dry up that quick. We saw that already in Stock 1000 this morning, where we had a brief little shower in 2 corners, red flag came out, and then it just dried up. So these guys are still ripping around.
Josh Herron in the background.
Yeah, but he's coming forward. He's come down the front straightaway every lap with his arm in the air, but he keeps catching people too. So you can see the little spits on the screen there. 27.8 that time last by for Hayes. He knows now he's got 11-second lead. These guys are all doing 27.
This is high tension though for Mesa, as he looks behind, kind of throws his hand in the air, because Mesa's in a position now where it's like, if you were all alone like Josh Hayes, you can kind of set your pace.
Correct.
But Benjamin Smith just keeps pushing Mesa, and Mesa doesn't want to give up that second position.
Corey, it's money out of his pocket, isn't it? Right?
Yeah,
so
it certainly is.
The problem is Herron's gonna, Herron could end up catching both of these guys. He was the quickest guy on the track the last time by. Herron's coming down the front straightaway with his arm in the air, and he's the quickest guy on the track. So,
and Jared Nassani in 5th spot, having a great go at it. He's behind Herron. So, Jason, if I was Jared Nassani, and I'm just going, okay, well, if Herron makes it through the corner, I'm going to make it through the corner too.
But look at these guys. They're accelerating up that hill pretty good there. And, Herron's he'll bring himself right back into this fight. And, all these guys have such great bike handling skills. And, the thing is when we start seeing it more and more on our screen, that's when also it's a problem. Looks like it's a little bit worse down in the turn 1 area right now. But I know the MotoAmerica officials are going to be paying attention to what the corner workers are saying.
Mesa, 37, having a look over his shoulder.
both riders back in the 6s except for that one guy, number 2. He's in the 25s now, so he's going forward. He's in 4th. He still has a chance to get himself on the podium. He sees these 2 guys in front of him coming back at him. So now Herron's not going to probably be so worried about things, as we have 2/3 race distance is complete now. And Herron's going to have his head down. He sees a podium sitting right in front of him.
So 2/3 race distance means that if the red flag comes out, it is up to race direction to call this race official. So it is what it is right now. It's green flag conditions. We have 6 laps remaining in this race. Josh Herron involved in an incident with Hayes earlier in the race, going wide in turn number 1 and working his way back from 10th spot is up to 4th with sprinkles around, messing with people and the lines and the speed they want to take. Herron is on a charge. Josh Hayes is out front by 11.4 seconds. Stefano Mesa, the battle we're looking right now, is battling it out with Benjamin Smith. They're trying to figure out how fast we can go. Herron is now broken free of Altus Motorsports, Jared Nissaney. This was one of the first laps of the race.
Yeah,
Jake.
that is the first time down into turn 1 from after they started, and you can see him and Hayes got together there in turn 1. This guy fell all the way back to 10th, and he's been gesturing to get the race up. Now he's coming down straight away. Head's kind of shaking, but he just went, what did he do there? He went 25.2, again, fastest guy on the track. And those 2 guys in front of him, you know, he's going to, everybody, the 2nd and 3rd place guys now are in the 25s. Hayes still rolling around the low 26s.
Herron goes well here, former Superbike race winner.
In the rain.
Exactly, in the rain.
Yep.
Of course, we do run on slick Dunlop tires in dry conditions, as it's declared just a regular race, not a wet race. We do have rain tires available for later on. And there's Rocco Landers, who's currently in 16th place, and there's his rider coach, Josh Hayes, who's behind him. Rocco under threat of getting lapped right now.
All right, now it's starting to rain. Now it's really starting to rain, because I can see Josh, all of his lean angle's gone. So this is where we got to start being careful, because I can see it raining. It has been red flag, Greg. Finally red flag. I could see that rain, and you know, that's the thing. They're looking at the same pictures we are. They're talking to the corner worker stations. And as soon as I saw Hayes tiptoeing into that turn 7, you knew that it was time.
So the rain held off just in time as the red flag is out, and our guess is they're going to call this race with 5 laps to go. When the red flag came out, it was Josh Hayes,
history,
Stefano Mesa, and Benjamin Smith. So Josh Hayes, in a weird condition day, ends up tying Miguel Duhamel's all-time AMA race record for all classes, with Josh Herron in 4th, Jared Nissaney in 5th, Tyler Scott 6th, Dominic Doyle, Luke Power, Carl Sotis, Liam Grant into top 10. A great performance from Hayes, and it looks like he was asking officials if it was over, and you could see that Josh Hayes nods and gives a fist pump. So officially over, as Josh Herron not happy, but he'll return to his pit box. No damage done to the motorcycle. So it's Josh Hayes, Stefano Mesa, and Benjamin Smith will head off to victory lane to celebrate. '86 career wins. Ties the all-time leader, Miguel Duhamel, for all-class wins, and he does it at the ripe old age of 47.
Amazing. I mean, like, you kind of run out of things to say about him. He done an amazing job today. He took it to those guys at the beginning of the race and was wanting to just break away and take advantage of what he knows how to do, which is get out front, split, and watch that pit board.
You know, in a sport that rewards youth, without question, everybody's always looking for the next rider to come up. For the Squid Hunter team to give Josh Hayes an opportunity to come race and get a couple of wins this season is incredible. Race pace on the right part of your screen. You can see Hayes doing that 22.9. That's the fastest lap of the race, set on lap 2. Put his head down for the next 7 laps, a la Jake Gagne or a la old Josh Hayes on a Superbike. And that was the gap that was created.
Yeah, that's exactly right. You can just compare the old Josh to the new Josh.
Stefano Mesa, first podium of the season. A great ride for him. Can't wait to talk to these riders, because what's going through their mind in those last few laps.
Benjamin Smith. Yep. Great to see Benjamin Smith finally get on the podium this year. I know that Cycle Outlet Store team, all of those guys, they've been working really hard to get this young guy back up on the podium. He did a great job today racing with Mesa.
Very interesting conditions in a race that was cut short by at least 5 laps on this one. So it's Hayes, Mesa, Smith that are going to be on the podium. Josh Herrin in 4th place. Jared Nissaney, his best finish of the year.
Great weekend for him.
Yeah, great weekend for him.
Yeah.
Ty Scott nursing that injury that he'll have now a week and a half or so to heal up. When we come back, we're going to talk to Hayes and find out how it feels to tie Miguel Duhamel at the all-time gap.
All right, Robbie Floyd and Roger Hayden here with you as the rain does start to come down. And Roger, you and I kept looking at it, and for the longest time, that little bit of mist wasn't strong enough because I was saying, hey, if we were to start a race right now, I wouldn't consider it a wet race. And that's what they kind of have to look at, too. But when it did come down, they brought out the red flag. And it just happened to be right after they could call it a complete race. But it did come in after that point.
Well, it looks like it's good timing.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't see a bunch of riders down in any of the corners. So it looks like it was, they have monitors all over the track. They can see where it's raining. They got corner workers out there telling them what's going on. And, earlier they red flagged it maybe a little too soon in the start 1000. And I think they just waited. They could see it was coming down too hard. They were watching this guy.
Yeah.
And when they see him tippy-toeing into that long right-hander, they say red flag.
But as a racer, I mean, we've seen shenanigans and stuff like that before. As a racer, if you know you don't have a chance for a victory and or whatever, I'm going to want that red flag. If I'm too far of a gap from a podium or whatever spot, I'm going to ask for that. If I even want to go back out there again because I want to get bunched back up, I don't have that chance if I'm too far back.
Yeah, but also, I mean, the race officials know who's going to try to do that and who's not. You can't.
Right.
I mean, if anybody wants to race to stop it, would have been Josh. He's got
no
a
doubt.
huge lead,
I'm there.
He's never going to wave his hand to get the race to be stopped. But some guys it's just different. It's whatever, what's comfortable for me might not be comfortable for you.
Okay, one thing that you and I get to talk about, I know it could be a tough subject because we will hear it after the fact. Josh Herrin finishes 4th, about 1.2 seconds behind Ben Smith. I know he wanted to get up there on the podium, probably speak his mind. Great run by Stefano Mesa. Excellent job by he and Ben Smith. But when Josh Hayes got by Josh Herrin, made a little contact there. It didn't look like it was that much, but you could see the disappointment or the anger in Josh Herrin's eyes as he went into turn 1. And it might have got in his head a little bit too much right off the bat.
Definitely looked like he was disappointed about it. If you go back to VIR, the same thing kind of happened into turn 1. So I don't know if that happening twice is why he was so upset. But
right.
It wasn't like Josh just came in too fast and cleaned him out. They just rubbed elbows a little bit, and Josh Herrin was on the short end of the stick. But I think it has a little bit to do with it being the second time.
And history, not only this year, but a lifetime leading into this too, though. But 2 guys that are established veterans, and Stefano Mesa, and you see the Latin ESPN crew down there getting the interviews with him. And what a run by Stefano Mesa. Stoked for him, Mama Mesa, Papa Mesa, the whole family, and Ben Smith having one of his best rides we've seen all year long out of him. I'm glad to see Benny back up there.
So happy to see Benjamin Smith on the podium and Stefano Mesa. They deserve it.
Absolutely. We send it back to the guys next door. We get to hear from our victory podium here in just a bit. Congratulations goes to Josh Hayes, Stefano Mesa, and Ben Smith.
MotoAmerica Supersport coverage is sponsored by Dunlop, the official tire of the MotoAmerica Championship Series.
In a race that was scheduled to go 19, went 14, shortened by rain. Here's a look at the finish. So Hayes, Mesa, and Smith, you can see the 9.6 second margin of victory. Herrin works his way back up into 4th. Saney, Scott, Doyle, Luke Power in 8th, and Carl Sotis. I'm sure Luke Power would love to have seen some rain tires on that bike. All right, so here it is. Miguel Duhamel and Josh Hayes are now tied for AMA wins all classes all time. Then Mladen Bobier and Rich Oliver. So I guess this is the time when, for the 25th year in a row, we get to talk to Josh Hayes on top of the box.
86 career victories is certainly an impressive feat, and it was a challenging task for you out there today in mixed conditions. What was it like once it started to rain?
You know, like it was actually exactly like the morning warm-up. So I'm really glad that I stayed out there and did laps this morning. But before that, I felt like I was having a good race. I was holding the guys at about a 1.5 seconds, but I was knocking out low 23s, and I felt really good doing it. And then as soon as we got a few drops in turn one, it opened up really fast. Like one lap, it was like 4.5, and they're like, oh, thank you. And I've ridden in this all morning, and it kind of stayed steady. Right there, actually the red flag for me came out at the perfect time. That's when it got really wet. I just had a big slip, the first one of the race, and then I saw Rocco up in front of me, and the track was quite wet. So it was the perfect timing for that to come out. I was scared there was going to be a 2 or 3 lap wet restart, but I'm just thankful. I'm thankful to this team. I'm thankful for these opportunities to be able to do these amazing things, win races, and get in the record books. And I'm so lucky. It's been so awesome. The track has been packed with fans. All the cars out in the infield, all these guys here, the CFE guys here cheering for us. Thank you guys. And man, I'm so thankful to be here. I love doing this, and hopefully I'll get to keep coming back and trying more. I'm having too much fun.
86 career victories in very many different classes. Are there any victories from throughout your career that really stand out or are memorable or special for you?
Yeah, I have several. I mean, like, I'm so lucky to have so many, you know. 2012 was a pretty special season. Winning my FX championship at Mid-Ohio was a pretty special race. And this 3 races this year have been so special working with these guys. We should have won Daytona, and I think we're going to try to give it a shot again. And I'm feeling better and better about my chances every day.
Daytona's quite a ways away, but looking ahead to Barber, you've got 2 more opportunities now that you've tied this record to beat this record. What are the chances that we see that happen?
I mean, like, I feel like I'm competitive, so I think I have as good a shot of anybody. It's going to be hard races. Weather in the South is always a lot like this, so I'll be ready for anything, and the team seems like they're ready for anything, so I'm just looking forward for the chance.
Congratulations, Josh Hayes, today's race winner, and 86 career wins tied for all-time victories. Let's get over to Jamie with second place.
Well, Stefano Mesa, always a fan favorite, draped in his native Colombian flag on this podium excursion today. We talked about you being a privateer effort. You can't afford to crash this Kawasaki bike. When the weather changed, what goes through your mind?
Yeah, I mean, it was a great race. It's been a great weekend for me and the team. Mesa 37 Racing, Seca, Steven, everybody's put a lot of work to try and get me a little bit more towards the front, and I think job done in both classes. I'm happy to be here. This is something for my team and Seki, and we're gonna keep working and hopefully keep in the lead.
We heard during the race that you're going to be racing next weekend, hopefully earn enough money to get yourself to Barber Motorsports Park. What are the chances that we see you finish out this season?
Yeah, we'll definitely be at Barber Motorsports Park. How you say, I got to go make some money next weekend, but we'll be there racing.
When you don't get to come out as often as you would like to, how do you go about this challenge? When these guys are out here full season, how do you come out here on top of the game?
I think it's all in the mind. You know, you got to come out here and just have fun first of all, and then it all comes together. You know, when you're not having fun on top of the bike, you're pretty much going nowhere. So just enjoy it, cherish every moment, and live it up.
Stefano Mesa finishing second, not taking anything for granted. Hannah.
Third place today goes to Benjamin Smith, his second podium appearance of the season, and a certainly hard-fought one at that. Tell us about your race.
What can I say? I mean, we're sitting here in the rain as the race started dry. Got off to an okay start, got swallowed up a little bit, but actually felt really good in the dry conditions, was putting down some low 23s, and then it started to spritz, and found myself into second and third place, and me and Mesa were just kind of, you know, going on a train there and just steady, you know, keeping that gap behind us. But I mean, I had a blast out there. All the fans that came out here, I can't thank them all enough. You guys are amazing. All the CFE guys are phenomenal. My whole team, they deserve this so much. Like I said, we got a podium at the first race this season, and we've had our bad luck for sure, but the team's been working their butts off, and, you know, hats off to them. My whole support system back home, Northeast Cycle Outlet, Mark Built Racing, who's just down the road from here, built me a phenomenal bike as well. MotoAmerica's Dainese, Yamaha, everybody that's behind me, I honestly cannot thank you enough.
It has been a certainly challenging season for you since we haven't seen you on the podium in so long. Some really good luck here today. How do we keep that momentum going into the last round?
I've been feeling really good on the bike lately, and we're starting, you know, we're working some things out, so I'm just planning on keeping this momentum rolling. A huge part of that has been my Olin's help that I've had. It was actually my suspension woman's birthday yesterday, Megan, so if everybody wants to give her a late birthday shout out. But yeah, it's been phenomenal, so just gonna keep this momentum rolling.
Certainly a good birthday gift for her and a great day for you. Benjamin Smith rounding out our podium.
Yeah, great job by Benjamin Smith and getting it done on a day that shows this guy right here, Ty Miguel Duhamel, for the record books, and it is not a small feat. Jason, a lot of championships for Josh Hayes over the years, but let's get back down to Jamie, who has an interview with our fourth place rider.
Fourth place, but he is our 2022 Supersport champion, Josh Herrin. There was a moment at the beginning of the race. It looked like there was a little bit of contact between you and Josh Hayes. From the outside, it looked like nobody wanted to give up room. What was it like from aboard the Ducati?
It was, it is what it is. We wrapped up the championship yesterday. I'm happy about that. We've been riding such a great year, and passes like that at the beginning of the race are a little questionable, but it is what it is. And, we just got to move on and go put our head down for Barber.
When you say put your head down for Barber, what pressure do you feel to defend this championship already, even though the season's not over? Prove it wasn't a fluke.
Oh, I don't. We proved what we needed to prove this year. I was just disappointed in that race because it's years and years and years of riding, 17 years of professional riding experience in this paddock, and races like this, whenever rider safety should be at the front of whatever they're concerned about. I have nothing to prove out there. I've won a championship already. I've won multiple races, been on the podium almost every weekend. I raise my hand because I think that it's not safe and they don't listen like always. So it's disappointing for sure. I understand that we got TV and all that stuff that we need to focus on and get in, but rider safety should be the first thing that they're worried about, and they're not. They never are. And it really is sad to see. I'm happy for Josh Hayes. He, all-time win record, that's something to be super proud of, and happy to have been racing with him. But I'll be coming after that record soon, as a lot of people will be, and hopefully we just have fun the rest of the year. But congrats to Josh and everybody else on the podium.
Obvious frustration from our Supersport champion, Josh Herrin. Hannah?
Jamie, after yesterday's crash for Tyler Scott, he had another opportunity to give it a go today. We know your hand was bothering you. How were you feeling out there?
Yeah, I was feeling good at the start of the race. Very thankful for the whole Vision Wheel M4 X-Star Suzuki team for getting the bike fixed overnight. And I felt really good this morning, had some pace, but I've been struggling with my hand. Yesterday, when I high-sided, it got ground down a bit, so it was a little bit difficult to hold onto the bike through the second sector and the fourth sector, but I felt good throughout the race, and I just didn't want to risk any more, but I was trying to keep a fast pace.
Well, hopefully we will see you healed up at Barber and ready to race. Thanks, Tyler.
Thank you.
Yeah, we're looking for Tyler Scott to be 100% at Barber. And, James Rispoli, of course, couple-time champion, he did the same thing to his fingers, and he's got a little bit of a tip for Ty Scott. So hopefully that'll heal up quickly. Well, more coverage from Supersport here at New Jersey Motorsports Park continues as we look at Josh Hayes make history.
Hey, look, Roger Hayden, we've got bikes on track. Why is that? It's a little early, isn't it? The reason being, they consider this what could be a wet race, and they're letting them test out the wet tires, the rain tires, not the slicks. So they consider it right now. They can give them their opportunity. Then the riders themselves are going to have that question. Is it dry enough to try the slicks? Because if it is, that tire will be better. It'll last longer. If it doesn't rain.
Yeah, right now, I mean, it looks like the
It's
condition
close.
that it's too wet for slicks and too
dry for rains.
Yeah.
I mean, you're right there on that bubble. And I'm looking out our window. I'm not necessarily seeing it rain like it was earlier. That doesn't mean it's not, but yeah.
The rain is just drizzling.
Yeah, it is.
Why I don't think it's getting the track fully wet. Like, it needs to come down a little bit harder, I think, to really get a good test. But they're going to get to see the track, and you'll know what places are going to be a little bit slick, and they'll make a call after that.
Yeah, and they'll have to make that decision. You see the flag workers, or the course workers out there waving that white with red flag. That doesn't mean stop or anything. It just says, hey, it's raining on this portion of the track. Hayden Gillum, the rest of the crew, some of the guys will be running the Superbike Cup, tied in with the Medallia Superbikes as well. Superbike Cup, prestigious title as well. Some money on the line and trying to win these titles. I mean, it's a race within the race.
Yeah, and Danilo Lewis leading the points now. And but talked to somebody on his crew today. Blew up an engine this morning and has to use a different bike, actually. because they didn't have a spare engine, so he's had to start to the back of the grid.
Okay, and we know that Superbike Cup has come down to, we saw Ezra Beaubier in the lead for much of the year, but coming down to, I think, Danilo Lewis and Brandon Posh. Brandon Posh looked really strong in the Yuasa Stock 1000. I think that kind of gives him a little confidence coming into this as well, a track that he's used to riding. And a guy that's familiar with this track, if it does rain hard enough that they're on wets, that has to be a factor, right? If you've done it many times, we haven't seen Danilo Petrucci riding in the rain on this track. This track's different than riding most other tracks.
Yeah, this track's a lot different than any other track he's ever rode in the wet. I can guarantee it that, because it's going to be slick, and there's going to be a couple parts of the track that you're going to have to not push it through, or you're going to end up sliding through the grass.
Absolutely, and Danilo Lewis is one of the best riders in the world, but I talked to even Jeremy McWilliams, who'd run MotoGP. We're going to see him in the Mission King of the Baggers. He said he came out here, did 3 laps in the rain one day on a test, said, I'm done. I'm not going back out there. So again, it is different. There is the Ducati New York entry. We'll see how he does here in just a bit. You know he's going to be fast, but sometimes having that false confidence and knowing you can go fast, and sometimes the track will jump up and bite you. We'll see. MotoAmerica Superbikes at New Jersey coming up. The big bikes, Medallia Superbikes.
Race 2 highlights from Supersport. It was dry until the end, JP.
Yeah, it definitely was until about 5 laps to go, and out early was Josh Herrin. Josh Hayes was pushing him from the very beginning with Rocco Landers in third. It looked like it was going to be a lot like yesterday. Herrin makes a small mistake there in turn 5, but was able to recoup that and get back to the front. Hayes drafts him coming onto the front straightaway. Those guys made a little bit of contact. Herrin runs a little bit wide, would start his climb back up from 10th place to try to get himself back forward. He'd eventually finish 4th. This guy, though, was all on his own. Rocco Landers pressured him early, as did Ty Scott and Mesa, but it really became down to Hayes and Landers until it started to just sprinkle. As soon as it sprinkled, Landers started to go backwards. As you can see, he gets swallowed up by Ty Scott, Benjamin Smith, and Mesa. Towards the end here, Ben Smith would close up and pass Mesa. Those two would go back and forth. You can see a couple of riders pointing to the weather. Landers didn't like it at all. And but this guy just kept plugging along, Greg. Look, his slowest lap when it was in those sprinkling conditions was only some 3 seconds off of what it was before. And you can see here, as soon as I noticed that Josh didn't go running off and tipping into here as fast as he would normally, I knew that there was a problem. And the red flags came out. MotoAmerica did a nice job there. And Josh Hayes goes on and gets that career 86 victory.
Yeah, but also key is the fact that he went out in the similar conditions this morning, Jason. A lot of riders didn't. They were concerned about the conditions, but you got to get it done. So Josh Herrin, obviously 93 points over Rocco Landers in this championship. Josh Herrin sits on 8 wins this season. Can he make it double digits at Barber Motorsports Park when we rejoin race action? Or will Hayes break Miguel Duhamel's record of all time? Or will someone else stand on top of the box? We certainly hope to see you then from Birmingham, Alabama, September 23rd through the 25th as we wrap up the MotoAmerica season. For Hannah, Jamie, Jason, I'm Greg. Thanks so much for joining us. We'll see you real soon.